Broomhouse is a small council estate in the west of Edinburgh, which has well above average rates of crime and unemployment. Because of these statistics, it's easy to see why the area has such a negative reputation. Residents themselves also have a negative attitude towards Broomhouse and the youth within it. We asked a random selection of residents what they felt people's perceptions were on the youths in the estate.
Thief. Broom is scum. Scary people. Ned. Scary.
Disgusting.
Annoying.
Trouble.
Negative.
Could do better.
Menace.
They're confused.
They do nothing but get up to nonsense and into trouble.
They're arseholes.
So people commonly have negative perceptions of youths in Broomhouse. So what kind of problems exist in the area that lead people to this conclusion?
The youth problems in Broomhouse, it varies with different ages now. For the older to like just teenage, like people just went into teenager years. Because they've got nothing to do, for verbal abuse, fighting, drinking in the streets, stuff like that.
Well, the problems is, used to be a lot of burnt out cars, I said, but a lot of graffiti and sort of vandalism and a lot of drinking, and people just wandering about the streets drinking.
Walk about streets, sit in parks, get we can't fuck about, pull stop, yeah, you're fucked. But if you're hurt, you open your legs.
There's nothing to do and
just consent. Just smoke and drink, remember that. Just have sex when you're bored. Or smoke your thing.
I do believe that these problems are because the youth have nothing to do. As soon as they wake up, they don't go out their estate. They hang about their estate 24/7. So maybe if you done something to get them out of the environment, out to do something, they could have fun and they could see what the world's like outside the Broomhouse and Sighthill.
I think it's wrong to say that in general there's nothing to do, and even if there is nothing to do, that doesn't give people the right to behave in a way that detrimentally affects other people's lives. There maybe should be more to do, there are things to do, but you can't just turn around and say there's nothing to do, so I'm going to behave in a way that makes everybody else's life a misery. That's not fair on anybody.
We decided to investigate what there really is for the youths of Broomhouse to do in the area. In doing so, we realised that there is in fact very little for 15 plus in Broomhouse. We visited community centres and gathered leaflets. Most of the activities on offer were limited and aimed at other age groups.
Well, the first thing, we've got the Thursday Club, 6 o'clock till 7:30 down in the new church hall, St Joseph's. So that's for the primary school age children. And any one Thursday night could be anything between 20 and 30, aged 5 to 11 literally, with all sorts of indoor activities and some outdoor activities up at the park. There was a group at the Broomhouse Centre. It was operating, there was a 13 plus girls teenage group was operating even last year.
I think they've got stopped because of funding.
You might be right.
There's not a lot for girls in generally in the west area. A lot of places have activities for people that are younger, like sort of primary school age, you know, but in terms of like sort of 15 plus or even like sort of 12, 13, unless it's football, there seems to be a lot of football in a lot of areas.
You've got the football park that the kids used to play in, but you've got the park next to it, there's all kids and kids. And because it's a community, a scheme, a lot of the youth didn't go out and travel about because you know the trouble that there is.
There's absolutely nothing. I mean, I would say there's nothing. There is a few things goes on. I mean, you've got Sandra that does your wee club with the girls and that, but what we really need in Broomhouse is a proper youth centre so everybody can get the use of it.
There are problems in Broomhouse like any other area, and it seems there's a lack of things for young people to do. Would these problems be reduced if the youths had more to do? In order to answer this question, we visited Sighthill Library and Granton Youth Centre. Both establishments have sought to reduce antisocial behaviour by engaging youths in activities.
If you've got nothing to do, you might try and find something to do, and it might not be something that we want you to get involved in. I mean, you might be more likely to get involved in criminal activity if you've not got anything to do and you've not got anyone to speak to, like any youth workers or anything. And obviously, if there is something to do, we've noticed in the Sighthill area that youth crime statistics have dropped since we've organised a lot of activities here. We try to facilitate things for young people to do, because there's not a lot of other things happening in this area, because obviously we don't have that many youth workers and we don't have a youth centre for young people to use. So we had young people coming in here, so we tried to arrange activities. So really that's our job as librarians here, to try and look for other agencies that will work with us to help deliver activities to young people.
The centre is really successful. As far as I'm aware, it's been running now for about 3.5, 4 years, and it just seems to be growing and growing. You get across the board, you get everyone. Anyone from 12 to 25, really. All problems, all sorts of backgrounds. Drug issues, drink issues, family issues, everything. We like to hope that the centre keeps you out of trouble. We try and advise young people what not to do. We don't read them the laws, but we try and tell them that the rights for wrongs.
I've benefited from the youth centre because it gives you a chance to meet new people. You can also socialise and take part in activities that you cannot do outside of the youth centre.
I suppose you get to ken more people and it brings the community closer together.
Well, before I was just walking about the streets with my mates, nowhere to go really, and if it wasn't open I'd still be doing the same right now. Go to clubs just to keep off the streets, somewhere to go. I take parts because most of it's fun, you just have a laugh.
I think Granton's perceived as a bad area as well. It's perceived all over Edinburgh as part of a bad area. People are scared to come down here because of all the gun crime and stuff like that. But I feel that the centre's reduced a bit of that just because of the youth community and stuff like that.
What now for the youths in Broomhouse? Currently problems exist like youth hanging around with nothing to do, underage drinking and vandalism. What would be the effect if youth had something to do and somewhere to go? Would providing the right things to do give them an understanding of issues that affect them?
I think it's just sort of hitting the headlines now that people are recognising that there's nothing to do. There are places like Sighthill Library that work with all ages, and it does prove that to divert people away from antisocial behaviour does work. You can educate people and it has sort of long-term lasting effects.
It's very unfair that everybody, all the young ones get tarred with the same brush, because I don't think you're all bad. I mean, you're doing positive things yourself now. So I think they need to give you a chance. They need to try and come up with some way of giving you a chance. I mean, there's another centre up the road. When is it ever open? Sighthill?
I think it's having the right things to do rather than always having more to do. And I think that's maybe what we need to think about. And I think making this video is a really good way to begin to have a discussion with the people who provide services for children and young people. One of the really exciting things the centre is developing just now is a youth cafe initiative, still at a very, very early stage of discussion. But the centre has taken a very active role and is very keen to try and get this provision up and running. And the centre will be looking to work very, very soon with young people across the area to help get that up and running and make sure it's provided. What's provided is something that young people actually want in the area.
If the club was built or a community centre for all ages, it would get used. Even maybe if you thought about it, it would get half the pensioners less scared of the youths these days and maybe get stuff done for them as well. Broomhouse is going to be, like, in the next 5 years, a place to be. It will be. Come to Broomhouse and see what it's like.